Please join me in welcoming Dr. Dodson.
Since the Me Too movement in 2017, there has been a renewed focus on addressing sexual harassment, behavior that targets, demeans, and belittles someone based on their sex or gender. Many organizational leaders and government policymakers view grievance reporting systems as the end-all be-all solution, and in response, have made concerted efforts to encourage women to formally report sexually harassing incidents. However, this solution, more often than not, creates more problems than it solves. When it comes to reporting sexual harassment, victims are often in a no-win situation. They're damned if they do, and damned if they don't. False reports of sexual harassment are incredibly rare, with estimates that more than 95% of women are being truthful about their experiences. If these women choose to stay silent, the harassment they are likely experiencing could continue. If they speak up, they risk damaging their reputation, their relationships, and their well-being. Consider the recently shared experience of Abigail Breslin, a veteran actor who has been working in Hollywood since childhood. She recently wrote on social media, "I had the silly and naive impression that the production company and crew would believe me after making a confidential complaint against a coworker for unprofessional behavior. Instead, I was publicly shamed and defamed after I had taken the recommended measure of reporting to my union." Unfortunately, Abigail Breslin's experience is not unique. Women who file sexual harassment complaints can face intense retaliation from their colleagues for doing so. Research from Time's Up and other institutions has shown that up to 70% of women who formally report sexual harassment experience a range of damaging responses from their peers, including ostracism, gaslighting, and sabotage. And it doesn't stop there. There are formal punishments too, with many complainants being denied workplace opportunities such as promotions, getting transferred or demoted, and even being terminated. This harmful retaliation is called double victimization, because it goes beyond the original harm to take a profound toll on the victim's mental and physical health. It damages the entire organization, leading to turnover, disengagement, and productivity loss that can ripple across their teams. In stark contrast, research shows that filing a formal complaint often doesn't lead to the removal or transfer of the accused harasser. Disturbingly, a study by Deloitte found that victims were 50% more likely to be terminated than their harassers. Even when terminated from one organization, these men tend to bounce back into positions of power within another organization in seemingly no time. So why might coworkers be so quick to retaliate against women who report harassment, but turn a blind eye to men who have been accused of such behavior? Our recent research uncovered one crucial factor. When people learn about a sexual harassment allegation, they can experience an emotion philosopher Kate Mann coined himpathy, which is excessive sympathy toward men accused of sexual harassment and anger toward the women who accuse them. My colleagues at the University of Utah and I found that himpathy is most likely to arise in people who highly value authority and loyalty, who tend to perceive behaviors that threaten the stability of institutions as immoral. For these folks, the expected narrative gets flipped on its head. In their view, the accused becomes the victim of an allegation, and the accuser becomes the villain, who is unjustly tarnishing the lives and careers of the man they accused. This emotional bias can cloud coworkers' perceptions of victimhood, leading to increased retaliation toward female victims and ultimately allowing misconduct to continue unchecked. So how can we shift this dynamic from coworkers actively harming women who come forward to instead mobilizing advocacy? There's still much to be learned about why double victimization occurs and how we can prevent it from arising in organizations after sexual harassment reports are filed. But I'm excited to share some up-and-coming research with you today. First, our research on himpathy has indicated that it is crucial for managers to take a neutral stance to avoid facilitating premature emotional reactions and inequitable social consequences for either party involved in the claim. To ensure neutrality, I recommend building bias-busting investigative committees consisting of diverse employees within the organization. This strategy will help prevent any one person who may feel overly sympathetic to the accused from exerting undue influence on decisions regarding disciplinary action. If you end up in an evaluative role, be careful not to share information that could negatively skew coworkers' perceptions of the complainant, especially before the investigation has been completed. Second, our latest research findings suggest that it can be beneficial for all parties involved to encourage those accused of sexual harassment to apologize. I realize this might sound counterintuitive, given that the boilerplate legal advice is to deny all wrongdoing. But my colleagues and I have found that public denials might lead to coworker attempts to sabotage victims' work performance and reputation. Conversely, when a man reported for sexual harassment openly acknowledges that they caused harm, even if that harm was unintentional, takes responsibility for their actions and shows remorse, coworkers are more likely to advocate on behalf of the victim. Moreover, sincere apologies not only contribute to victim healing, but they also help repair the harasser's reputation and reduce stakeholder outrage. Research from the medical field, for instance, has found that apologies reduce the likelihood that patients pursue malpractice lawsuits and lower average settlement costs. An apology might seem like a small act, but our research is finding that it can have profound benefits. Finally, stepping in to formally report sexual harassment on behalf of someone else has been shown to also mitigate other coworkers' adverse reactions toward victims. Studies out of Stanford University have found that victims are more likely to be given advancement opportunities and be perceived more positively if a bystander reported sexual harassment rather than the victim herself. Your outside perspective can lend credibility to their account and signal to your coworkers that harassment is not tolerated in your organization. The caveat here is that bystander reporting should only be done if consent is granted by the victim. Although well-meaning, grievance reporting systems for sexual harassment often lead to more pain than relief for victims by catalyzing these negative coworker retaliations. The first step in tackling this quandary is recognizing that it exists, and that if a harassment complaint is raised in your workplace, this is likely the reality that the victim will face. By implementing strategies such as creating diverse investigative committees, encouraging apologies, and filing bystander reports, workplaces can begin to cultivate an environment where women who come forward are genuinely supported, not punished by their colleagues. We still have a long way to go to ensure compassionate reporting climates are commonplace, but I believe that we can get there together. Thank you.